But we continue to try to explain the importance that each of us have to realize someday that if we want to look beyond the three-dimensional world, that this physical instrument cannot do it. And as soon as you really decide that there is a dimensional states of consciousness and planes of performing awareness other than the physical, then you will begin to want to find out about instruments that you can use. The only way you can find this out is to go inside. There's no way on the outside world through the five senses that you can go into these other dimensions of consciousness. We have to find a better piece of equipment. And one of the first things that you find is when you start to become what they call or refer to as psychic, is that you have a pattern body that looks exactly like this one. The amazing part about it is that you can get out of this body and stand over to the side and look back and see this thing where you left it. Sometimes you'll leave it in the bed, sometimes sitting in the chair. And if you ever have, I would say, the misfortune of having an operation, why, when they knock you out, you'll find that you are in the prototype body looking at the physical form below you or to the side of you. Now, as we begin to search for a awareness of purpose, the thing that I like to teach you is to not get into that particular body, because that body makes you a walker of the sky, makes you play with the goblins and the ghosts, and tends to develop habits of desire towards what we call the magician. We want to teach you that the first body beyond the physical body that is most desirable is what we refer to as the Christ Buddha body. Now, as we get into what we call the golden globe, which is a body of golden light, it is here that Master Jesus spoke, Gautama spoke, Lao Tzu spoke. If you'll read where Zoroaster and Mohammed and all the teachers, they spoke of this body as the liberating body. The reason it's such a beautiful thing, and you have to work at it, you just can't go through the advanced Buddha class once or twice and say, now I am fully a Buddha or a Christ being. You have to really work at it. I'll tell you when you know that you're really performing properly, and that is when you can neutralize any desire that you no longer wish to have fulfilled. Now you are in to the Buddha Christ consciousness. You are effectively working, because otherwise every desire has to be fulfilled. And you're going to hear me tell you for quite a long time, trying to press upon your mind to be very, very aware of your desires, because the desires will bring you back to the location and will give you the physical form and the environment that has to be to fulfill that desire. So this is why you can look at people and you will see that some are very highly intelligent and some are having a very difficult time. Some have very strong bodies and some have very distorted bodies. This is basically because of desire and how those desires have been interwoven. The true teacher does not wish to just please people, but to give you a helping hand and guide you through these states of consciousness to where you can learn about all the different forms and all the different planes. A intellectual, ego, curious type disciple will complain every step of the way. What did Jesus say? Love one another as I loved you. Why did he say that? Because it's some kind of a big deal? Because it cleans your aura. It puts the right type of vibration to where you can now go and become a Christ being, an awakened person at that level of consciousness. Yes?
Well, to dissolve the thought forms, can we do it by sitting in what you call the Christ Buddha light?
You can. That's what I'm talking about. But you can't kid yourself. You have to, when you are really have become the golden bowl, when you really work in it, like you work in your physical body, when you're really there, it happens. But you have to consciously work in it. You just can't go and kind of enjoy this vibration of peace and joy and feeling free. You have to be able to work at that level, because the Christ level or the Buddha level of this golden light is the first movement of the atom particles to take into form. It is the first movement. And until you can understand that, until you can go into your golden body, move into this, and then take a look, you start to look down around this piece of equipment here, and you'll see all of these pictures surrounding. Then if one or more of these desires that you have pictured, created, you are the creator, then you can go and take that picture and lift it out of your photosphere. You just sort of pull it out. And as you pull it up in beyond the heart center into the upper part of this golden light, it begins to break up, just like you would look at like somebody take a hammer and hit a mirror that you were looking at. It just sort of shatters. And when it shatters, it's gone. Now, the big trick is when you come back down, if you don't start playing the same thought pattern again and recreate it, you're clear of it. But see what has happened. You don't change your habits. You don't change your way of thinking. You don't work at this thing that I keep telling you about in our devotional class, to learn how to be kind and gentle. Learn how to be real gracious and merciful unto yourself. When you do this, you begin to change the imagery and the habits. And once you've changed the habit, you can destroy the image, and no longer will you have to fulfill that desire. Yes.
Well, sometimes when it feels like the desires float up into the head of the Buddha and they start to disappear, there's a tremendous pain or discomfort involved. What is this?
You better believe it, because you're still hanging on to them. You haven't let go. You have to let go. Remember what I said? You have to be impersonal. What did Gautama say? Said, the center of the wheel. What did Jesus say? The straight and narrow path. What did Lao Tzu say? Reside in the Tao. All of these things are saying the same thing. They all mean the same thing. Yes.
My question parallels his. Why do people cry and scream when they're trying to give up desires?
Well, you have to understand that when you start changing your vibration, consciousness resides here between the eyes, called the butterfly. The top of the head is the guiding light, and the stream that comes down through here is where the energy is fed and goes out each spine. This keeps the physical body working. As long as this butterfly is in place, and as long as the energy can come through, at least from here to up, it can start atrophying down here as long as the eliminating part of the body is still operating. You can still live. Now, when we go out and get up into the upper level consciousness, and we begin to leave this, and here is a desire down here that we want fulfilled. This desire may be right into the emotional center, very strong, where most people live. All right, when we start pulling past the butterfly, this emotional desire, it gets caught in this circle, which is called the infinite circle, or the figure 8, or the guardian knot. It's called many, many different names. Now, it's got to work its way past this guardian knot. Now, if you are fixed of mind, if your willpower is dominating your every decision, you can't be humble, you can't be kind, you can't be gentle. You've got to have your way. But you really want to move on. You have decided you want to know God. You want to know what life's all about. I am tired of listening to people tell me I just got to believe in this person, that person, that I've got to fall on my knees to some priest. You will find then, as you begin, and they're called the tugs, your tug, it hurts here, and it'll hurt wherever that particular energy field is tied with great desire. It may be in the life power center, it may be in the procreation, it may be heart, but it has to go through the guardian knot. And this is why I keep trying to show you, teach you, and help you. You can't untie the guardian knot. You loosen it. If you untie it, the body dies because it'll take flight. But you can take flight, and when you take flight, you will find, regardless where you go, that when you get out, there is a long stream that you can look back, and you look right back down through that stream into this piece of equipment, the human body. If this snaps, then life is over because no more energy can come into the body. You can go to your God self, yeah, because some of you have had this experience. You can go into the council, you can go to the midnight sun, you can go right into Great Supreme. And this still stays tied to the equipment. It's called the silver card in the Bible. As long as the silver card is tied to the guardian knot, you can come back. Now, you have two hemispheres of the brain. Now, what we have to do is practice stimulating 12 points in the brain. They're called the 12 tribes of Israel. That which is real in consciousness is what they're really talking about. Now, when we come back, we have to stimulate these 12 tribes. Our emblem here shows 6. That's because we're entering into the 6th dimensional state. The 6 tribes in the brain are beginning to become active. We've only had 5. The new one is coming. But some of you now have 8, and some of us have 12 already functioning. Some of them are not functioning to the point that they are demonstrative in the 3-dimensional world, because if they was, we would burn up the flesh. So time is not right for all 12 to be demonstrated. But we do teach you in our brain band class, we try to teach you how to stimulate 9 beautiful states to help you become a better person and have more confidence in the purpose of life. So these things are very hard to put into words, because you and I have imprisoned ourselves with thought patterns put there through our environment. Stop and think. A person born in New York City has different concepts than people who are born in Oklahoma City. That you have a big argument about many things with people. Now, you expand that people in America to Russia, you're going to have big arguments. If you go on into China, you have big disagreements. This is because this thing here is a computer, and it can be programmed in any way you want to. Hitler proved this, and I think the most unusual way with his SS troops. You see, you can do anything with this piece of equipment when you first started off. There are certain qualifications that make a person be born into that type of environment. There are those of us who would not accept a body in that type of environment. Why? Because our soul pattern has more light in it. The oversoul, which is here, it comes down and builds here in what is called, Jesus called the living soul. When we take this living soul and put a whirling energy into it that is in harmony with divine law and order, then this goes back and it is whirled into a section like a tornado. Now, this becomes consciousness in the soul. The rest of this is all unconscious. That's why you have to come and go so many times. It's just not a one-time trip. It's a many-time trip. And every time we come in and take on a body, we are programmed another section of this plus what we didn't do right. Now, time has come. It used to be very, very hidden. Wasn't permitted to give out to the public. Wasn't permitted to talk to the human race. Had to be very, very held and silent. You had to go to your teacher. The teacher would look at you, examine you, put you on a month or 2 just playing with you. And if you didn't have the right light in your head, and he would test you, He wouldn't want nothing to do with you. He'd send you off. Now, everyone has a right. Of course, if your head is full of set concepts, if you think I'm weird, that all this stuff, my God, where do you get all that crazy stuff? If you're thinking that this stuff is so way out, then you're going to have to work a little bit harder than the person who says, my God, I've been looking for that for a long, long time. It depends upon the growth of this soul. That's what it really depends upon. And if you have got enough clearance here to go to what we call the Christ level or the Buddha level, and take all the desires out of this human head here, whirl it up through the astral records, and don't get caught in the astral records, because you do, it's a mess. I have told people, don't do it, and they go do it anyway. And then they come, oh my God, I need help. I can't keep on spending all my energy just pulling you out of things that you shouldn't do. I tell you, don't do it. That should be enough. But it don't seem like it is all the time. If you stop here, just like a student, very, very fine student, and I said, do not mess with the astral record. He says, but I have been invited in. I said, who are you going to listen to? The ones on the other side or what I'm talking? If I'm to be your teacher, please listen. Well, okay. What did he do? Went right the next week or two, dove right into the astral records, found out that his mother was his wife at another time who got killed in an earthquake, and he jumped in after. And he then told me, he says, my God, you was right, I almost died. You can destroy the very thing you come to do this lifetime. So don't do that. But once you get into the Christ light, be able to handle your desires, then you can go into your God Buddha light, which is about in here, into your divine being, the Atom light, the Godhead, or the Great White Light, whatever you want to call it. Now, with this, and you sitting in here and bringing it down, and bringing it right into the head here. Now, my friends, you can go into the astral records and you can look at your whole complete span of soul development. And it will be like going to a motion picture show, sitting there and seeing each lifetime roll off like a movie. It's a grand thing to do. It really is. When you can handle it, don't do it until you're ready. Try to understand the purpose of life. And that's to build consciousness into a new type of body, which, for the want of the words, we call it a soul. It is actually the seed that is made in the image of the great Creator, and you have to fill it with consciousness. And as soon as it's filled with consciousness, you won't come back to this plane anymore, unless you choose to. There's many, many planes to work in, many, many different levels to perform in, and when we get you into the Godhead class, we try to teach you how to go into your Godhead body and how to move in it, how to make it work, and how to play in it, have fun in it, and yet work with what is called the gods. There are many gods. We think, oh, there's only one God. There are many gods, and you'll come to know this. But you can't know this until you can wear your God body, or this tremendous sphere of light. Beautiful sphere of light. Then you'll find and meet beautiful beings who also wear this sphere of light. Beyond the God body, there are bodies. But you see, we are used to wanting to see something. And remember what I tell you? It is the sound that takes you home. And once you go beyond the atom body, your bodies become sound. And if you can't hear those sounds, you're not using your body. There's one that sounds like a bagpipe. There's one that sounds like a fiddle. There's one that sounds like a harp. They're not exactly, but close enough. And there's some that cannot be identified by any instrument on this planet. We have to realize, when I come down, I put on garments. It tells you in the Bible. The garments must be removed. And these are the garments that I keep talking about. And you'll find out that if you study with me long enough, you'll get to a place that you feel like you're taking off one after another. You're just shedding off garments They're called coverings, they're called garments, they're called states of imagery, of desires. And it's just like taking off a coat of skin. You know what it says? You must be naked to stand before God. That means you have to give up all your desires, you have to give up all your habits, and you have to take all these garments off. And when that happens, I guarantee you, you'll know God. This part of ourselves, which we call the spirit self or the God self, it died when it entered here. This is not us. This is a piece of equipment with a lot of memories in it, activating through the brain system, which is the computer of this equipment. And the spirit that came down and tied itself in this knot and holds this illumination here for you to bring the spirit consciousness into. It's there for you. It is a seed. The seed must be fertilized and anointed with the divine oil and light. It has to. We had children in for the first time in a long time. And this is what I ask Great Supreme to do. Anoint this seed with the light of illumination with thy hand, Great Supreme. That which gives life to all things, not just to God who rules this particular universe. This is the mystery. This is the flight of the bird. When the serpent who crawls up the spine turns into a winged bird. To understand the scriptures, the mystical tells you what life's all about. There's only one way to know whether something is right or wrong, and that is for you to have a personal experience. It is my endeavor and effort to give you the way to have that personal experience. I don't want you to take my word. Why should you take my word for anything? My goodness, if you take my word for anything, the next person that comes along and shouts a little louder and yells and screams and gets your emotional center all upset, you'll fall prey to him. I want you to be a thinking person. I don't want you to just fall on your knees because I say something that's not right. At least it's not for me. I want to know why. I want to know how. I want a personal experience. Don't tell me about things I cannot know myself. And what I tell you, I show you how. I can't just say, well, you want to know God? Come on, I show you God. You have to tune your equipment up to know God. Sometimes when you receive the Fourth, some people go with me. They're full conscious when they go in the light. Others go to sleep. You need to be tuned up. You need to work a little bit. You need to get a lot of these confused desires out of the head. You need to empty the mind. This is a job to empty the mind. It's a tough job. Because the minute you sit down to try to be quiet, here you go to thinking. Here you go to worrying. And then you get mad because you can't shut that thing down. Well, there's only one way to shut the mind down. And that is to be able to concentrate towards a one-pointed direction. And the best way to do that is to follow a living teacher who can give you his divine current. This is why a dead one won't do it. He can't do it. But in each master teacher, there is a record that can be known. When I see the image of Master Jesus, I go inside and I look at the record. I'm not looking at Master Jesus. I know better than that. And when I go in and look at Lao Tzu or Gautama or any of them, I look at the record because all records are here in the astral plane of the earth. They have to stay there because they belong to the Lord God of this planet. He has a right to keep a copy of those things. And when I need something very bad, I am finding that somehow, some way, whoever has it comes to give it to me. I used to think I had to run all over the world to find the information. That's the reason I took a trip around the world. I found out now that all I have to do is go inside. And if I need a part to make a section of my consciousness begin to work as a whole, I just concentrate on it. Father, I need this part. I'm not able to use it completely now. And if I am in a position to where I can use it to serve, it comes. Sometimes through a book, sometimes through another person's mind, in a dream. Be surprised how many times when you tell me a dream, hey, that's what I've been looking for. Thank you. And then I explain it. But all of us help each other. All of us are particles of Great Supreme. We are all just like this. Every one of us is made in this vortex of image, and we have these overlays of fields that go out and in. It goes out and comes back to the center. It goes out, comes back to the center. And when you learn to set in the center, the whole thing's yours. It's all yours. That's the reason you hear me say, learn to be centered. You have to learn to center at every level of consciousness that you're working at. And there are many different levels. And when you can center at one level, you go through the black hole, zoo, and go right on up into the next level and find a whole new way of expressing consciousness. And then you go back into the center, you go through another. So we teach you in some of our classes how go right on through and don't stop. But you have to stay in the stream and you have to stay in the center. Otherwise, you go up and veer off. And if you have desires, then you'll veer off. You can see people die, go up a little ways, and they'll go into a place provided by Master Jesus. This is true. Didn't he say, I go to prepare a place for you? Absolutely true. All the great teachers have prepared a place, a location. This is a location in which they have taught man to raise to that level. And when you can see these levels, you can see the Essene brothers, the Siddha brothers, the brothers of grace, you can see all their levels in there. And if you tie yourself to any one of them, that's where you will go when you pass out of this body. I want you to be free. I want you to know about the levels. I do not want you to be tied to any of them.